Welcome back. We are here with Jake, who is a real estate agent in Ohio and Florida. Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm great, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. It's nice to have you on. I'm excited to chat. So you became a real estate agent over 4 years ago. What made you begin this journey?
Well, it's actually a story that started in Florida. My wife and I were taking a vacation. We were visiting Siesta Key, and there was a point at which we put our kids down for a nap. Her and I were hanging out outside, enjoying the sunshine. And before too long, I kind of was like one of those out of body experiences where I realized that I was sitting there on my computer working during my vacation, and she was doing the same thing. And we had kind of stopped talking, between ourselves, and we were just working. And I was like, why are we, what are we doing? And she's like, well, I'm just working so I don't get buried. And that's what I was doing. And so I like shut my computer and I was like, hey, if we're gonna work on our vacation, let's do something together that can benefit us. Like, we're not working for someone else that we're taking time from.
Yeah.
What would we do together, or for ourselves, that would benefit the family, that if we're going to be productive during our relaxation, um, that we could do that together. And she had kind of always thought about doing real estate from an agent perspective, and I wanted to get into investment properties. So through talking, we kind of just like started listening to podcasts and gathering as much information as we could on what it would take to do that. And we decided, let's do it together, both get our licenses. That way I would be sort of have some accountability to
Yeah.
get invested in learning, rather than just kind of try to do things on the side, learning about real estate investing. I would be getting my license and learning the industry together, and be able to support her with anything, should we need to kind of diversify resources from that aspect. So yeah, that was a while ago, and we did that. We got our licenses, and now we've created a team, and we're operating both in Florida and Ohio. So it's it's a pretty interesting story that was kind of spur of the moment, but it, it was something that we thought was going to be beneficial for us as a family.
Yeah, and I really like how you guys are doing it together. I think that's awesome and, really helps the motivation factor when you don't feel like doing it. You have your wife who's, you know, on your ass and be like, "Come on, Jake, let's go. We need to do this." And as a real estate agent, what is something that you do to drive you to being successful?
I think for me, it's more about looking at it as a business, and having systematic processes. Um, you know, there is a process that occurs when you purchase or sell a home, and that can go in many different directions. But having a plan by which you operate and inform clients on the process, and have set steps to go through, that was the biggest thing for me, is creating those processes that are repeatable and have flexibility for variations that occur, but yet you still have a kind of target path to follow that gives understanding to someone, which also instills confidence that, hey, this, though this is stressful, this whole process, we know there's expectations in place of what will occur, and we can just continue to plan on the next step that needs to be done.
Yeah, and I think buying a house is very stressful, obviously, especially for first time home buyers. And you talk about your processes. What processes do you put in place for like those first time home buyers that might have nerves or might be a little scared to make sure they're getting to the closing table with the least amount of scratches as possible?
Yeah, I think education is huge. As much as you can educate someone, not only on the process, especially if it's the first time, but also the trends and the expectations that are in place for the market, are going to be huge in helping them identify what decisions they're going to have to make as they go through the process. From what they're going to see in the inspection, to how to make repairs and things as a result of those inspections, and understanding what resources are needed. Those are going to be key factors in helping someone feel confident about the decision to purchase.
Yes. And how do you think the NAR class action lawsuit will impact your business?
I think that that is going to be something that it it has an effect on the conversation and how the conversation is presented. Previously, there was assumptions, um, with what commissions are, how those will be distributed among brokers and agents, and what the process will look like. I think that the changes that are coming are going to be something that involves a lot more communication up front when a home is being listed or sold. There's going to be a requirement now that you have a agreement with an agent when you're purchasing a home. So that was not previously a necessity. So that will have a lot more impact on commitment. You're going to want to pick someone who you are confident would be committed to you, and you're committed to them as a buyer. Um, and there's going to be more understanding for the general public on kind of behind the scenes of what occurs during that relationship with an agent. So I think it is a good thing overall. I think it will also require a better understanding or knowledge base for agents. They'll have to be able to explain those things, whereas previously they could they could maybe not cover all the intricate details and still get a listing contract or an agreement in place to move forward. So I expect we will see agents that are leaving the industry who maybe don't feel comfortable with that um, with that process, and it's more difficult. But from our individual business, I think overall it'll be a great development. It may just require more negotiations during the process.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting. It was kind of out of nowhere, like the the lawsuit kind of just came out of nowhere. So I think a lot of people are adjusting. They're kind of looking in the market and being like, okay, how is this going to affect my business? What do I have to do to kind of pivot? So I think there's going to be a lot of adjusting. And September 4th, 2020, you left your job to run your business full time. What was it about that time period that made you say, okay, it's time for me to make this leap?
Well, honestly, that was a leap of necessity. Um, that was COVID, and there was a restructuring in the prior role that I had for the company that I was working with previously, and they ended up eliminating my position. And so I had already gotten my real estate license, and I was looking at, what did the future look like for me? During that time, almost every company was on a hiring freeze. And so I said, well, I can sit here and wait for something else to develop, or I can take this opportunity that we created as a kind of dream of ours, and just put all my time, energy, and effort into it to make it successful, because that is the opportunity that I'm given. I was a little bit unhappy in my role before I left, and this was kind of the fire that I needed inside to say, hey, you know, this is the direction we're moving. And it was not everyone gets to do it that way. It can be scary to make that leap. So sometimes you do need a push from behind
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
hit the skydiving platform and just take off. But yeah, it was something that it still was nerve wracking. It was still a very unknown time. I didn't know what to expect, but overall, it was one of the best decisions that we could make.
Yes, I love that how you just kind of embrace the uncertainty, right? You kind of just
Mm.
made that jump. You said, you know what? It's time to do it. There's no better time than now. Let's make that jump. And you're also big into education. You went to a career day to teach kids about real estate. Why do you think it's so important for kids to learn about these type of things early on?
Well, I think it's important, you know, to have a full understanding of real world concepts. You know, you learn all the math, the science, the writing, and grammar, and all of that, and then you get thrown into the real world. You know, after your schooling is completed, and not always do you have general information on how a process works from, you know, a financial aspect in creating smart finances and not using credit cards for, you know, everything that you purchase. And similar to that is the home buying process or the home selling process. More so for the buying process, because it's something that isn't isn't really a course or something to that effect that you can take in school. So understanding what to expect even at a young age can help someone determine if they're excited about that and could. I mean, if I was in college and I bought my first property, that would have been so much more beneficial than waiting, you know, 6 years after I was out of school, because the appreciation would be there, the equity to develop in that property. And it's not like renting where you rent a property and then once you leave it, you have nothing to say for it except for the memories and experiences you had there. You actually get to have equity when you sell a home that can be contributed to either the purchase of a new home, or some people have kept the homes that they've purchased and used them as an asset that provides them an income.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like how you're out there, getting in the community, getting involved, showing kids like, hey, there's more to learn than what you're learning in school. I saw that on your Facebook and I'm like, that's awesome that the fact he's out there doing that. And you also mentioned that you do this with your wife. What effect do you think running a business with your wife has on your personal relationships at home?
It has, I would say, both positive and negative effects. From a positive perspective, you know, you are working together to drive a you know, economical benefit for the family. You're committed to being successful, and you can leverage a relationship that you hold the closest of any, you know, any person in the world to trust and confide in your business, which is great. The negative side of things is that sometimes you start to lose a little bit of that kind of just being present and being relaxed, in the sense of, let's just talk about, you know, how we are, or things that are
Yeah.
naturally occurring conversations, because you're talking about the business even on like a Saturday night at 9 p.m. while you're sharing a glass of wine. You know,
Yeah.
you're using time outside of what business hours are to continue, and that can kind of get overwhelming that you never talk about anything else. So it does take some practice and some work to say, you know what, we're going to set that aside for now. We're going to Let's just focus on us and personal items, and we'll save the conversation for later. And it takes a while to determine that that's a need,
Yeah.
um, but it's a learning experience.
For sure. And if your younger self saw you today, would he be proud?
I think so. I mean, I I always try to, you know, kind of follow a moral compass on decision making, and um, focus on things that are going to be beneficial to me down the road. Um, so at a younger age, I think I was very much engaged in that same thought process, but I guess the details of what was a high level focus were different. I was very much into sports and being the best at what I'm doing, which is lacrosse or practicing foul shots so I could take a foul shot competition.
Yeah.
you know, so I would say I would be proud in that what I'm doing is something that is is constantly a focus at improvement and learning and understanding the industry that I'm in or the specific situation I'm in so that a decision can be made on how to adjust where it's needed.
Yes. I like that. I have two more questions.
All right.
What do you think your purpose is here on earth?
So I've actually done a little bit of thinking on this, not knowing you were going to ask it, but this is a um, something that has been a thought of mine uh, in the past. And someone said to me one time, I can't remember where or if I read it in a book. They said if you could describe what your mission statement is in one sentence, what would it be? And I was like, that's interesting. I've never thought about, like, if someone asked me what my mission is, what would it be? And so I went through a couple iterations. I keep a journal and quite regularly journal in the mornings. But what I came up with was my mission would be to create meaningful conversations with people that I come across in my day to day, and determine where I can add value to the lives of others through those conversations.
I like that. Value first. That's the way. I
Yeah, and
I
it's
like that.
it's you have conversations with friends and hey, did you see the game and things, but the real relationships are the ones that breach that kind of common denominator of factors that anyone could talk about and really dive deep into individualist ideals as far as how are you really doing, what's going on with the family, how are you feeling about this situation that occurred. And that's where I kind of categorize meaningful conversations. It's not skimming the surface, but it's really diving in and saying, you know you are a person, I'm a person, what's going on in our lives that are meaningful, and is there any way that I can help you or that I need help you know
Yeah. I like that. That's amazing. I have one more question.
All right, shoot.
If you could have dinner with two people, one person from the past and one person from the present, who would it be and why?
Definitely from the past, it'd be my mom. She passed away when I was in high school. She developed cancer and ended up passing away when I was 17. And to go back and have a conversation with her and to just experience her mentality and her ideals again would be invaluable to me. One person from the present would actually be my dad. Um, he is out in New Mexico, and so we don't get to really cross paths too often just because the amount of distance that's between us. We do scheduled trips, or he schedules trips. We're actually going out there in the
Yeah.
next month or so, which I'm excited about. So I will get to do that. But yeah, he's been such a instrumental force in who I am and who I attribute a lot of my mannerisms to. Definitely my humor. Um, so those are just two people that have been such a huge impact in my life, and that um, I certainly don't get to spend time with as much as I would like. And so the ability to have a dinner would be amazing.
I like those two. Those are good ones. Well, Jake, that's all I have. How can people find you, and what is one thing you want to leave people with?
Um, People can find me. So I'm with two brokerages. Um, the one in Ohio is Danberry. So you can search for me on Google and find me in Danbury. And then down in the Sarasota area in Florida, it's with the Sunshine State Company. Again, You can just Google me there. But one thing I would leave people with is, you know, just when you're going about your day, think about what you could do to understand a situation that you're in before you make a decision, before you react. Someone cuts you off while you're driving. You don't know what's going on in someone else's life. You feel like they, um, are disrespectful to you. Try to understand what's going on in their life, because it puts it in perspective when you really do know. And a lot of times we're all focused on ourselves as we go through our day because we're the narrator of our own lives. And when you bring someone else into that picture and understand what they're going through, it helps us to react in a way that may be different than what we would initially um, expect.
That's amazing. Well, Jake, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you. It was a great conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Always good to talk to you.